In the Scottish Highlands, Jimmy is watching TV with his sisters and cousins when a loud siren suddenly starts blaring outside. Their aunt rushes to shut the door and tells the kids to stay put. The children are immediately on edge, hearing chaos erupt around the house. Jimmy walks over to the front door and calls out for his father, but before anyone can respond, the door begins to shake violently. A moment later, the door is kicked open and zombie-like creatures, known as the infected, storm inside. They immediately attack the girls, devouring them in seconds while Jimmy hides behind the door unseen. Using the distraction, he bolts out of the room, only to witness his mother being torn apart in the next room. As he runs through the house, he keeps seeing his family members turning into infected right before his eyes. Somehow he manages to escape the building. But outside it's just as bad, infected are everywhere. Desperate, Jimmy runs to the church hoping to find his father. Instead of help, he finds the priest acting strangely. The priest doesn't believe the infected are a curse. He thinks they're part of God's plan, convinced that this is Judgment Day. He hands Jimmy a gold cross and tells him to keep the faith. Just then, the infected break through the church windows. Jimmy runs, but the priest stays behind, willingly accepting what he believes is salvation. The creatures pile on him and quickly infect him too. All of this chaos stems from the rage virus. While continental Europe managed to repel it and cut off the UK, the islands became a closed-off wasteland. Now survivors must live day by day in whatever pockets of safety they can find. 28 years after the outbreak, a group of survivors lives on Lindisvarn Island, a remote place separated from the mainland by a tidal causeway. On this particular day, a young boy named Spike is about to learn how to kill his first infected. His father Jamie is making breakfast when they hear his wife, Isla, collapse in the bedroom. They rush in to check on her. Isla becomes upset when she hears that Spike will be training today. Jamie tries to calm her down, but it quickly turns into an argument, then just as suddenly she quiets. She's clearly struggling with memory loss and frequent confusion, barely able to understand what's happening half the time. Back in the kitchen, Spike meets up with Sam, who gives him a brand new bow. As they leave the village, the entire town gathers to cheer for Spike, wishing him luck. At the gate, Jamie reminds him of an important rule. If someone leaves and doesn't come back, no one is allowed to go looking for them. Too many lives have already been lost trying to save others. They head across the causeway to the mainland. As they walk, Jamie shares stories about life before the outbreak. Spike listens in disbelief, amazed that people used to live so far away from the sea. Eventually, they cross a bridge and enter a forest, constantly on alert for any infected. They find a slow, crawling infected with a bird perched on its back. When the infected stops to eat worms, Spike readies his bow and fires. The arrow strikes the neck and the creature dies instantly. Another infected comes at them from behind, and Jamie kills it with a clean shot. The sound attracts more and Jamie brings down another one. When one more stumbles toward them, Spike asks Jamie to spare it. Jamie agrees, proud of his son, though Spike feels unsettled by the violence. As they continue walking, they spot wildlife and take in the beauty of the forest. But that peaceful moment ends when they find an infected strung upside down with a bag over its head and carvings etched into its back. Jamie believes someone captured him while he was still human and left him to turn into bait. He wants Spike to finish the job, but the infected starts thrashing violently and Spike freezes. In a panic, Spike fires and hits the creature in the head, killing it. Further down the trail, they discover a mutilated animal. Its head and spine are hanging from a tree. Jamie's expression changes. This kind of display could only mean one thing. An alpha infected is nearby. He urges Spike to move quietly and quickly. They reach a field and spot a horde led by an alpha. Immediately, Jamie grabs Spike and they run back into the forest. Even during the chase, Jamie keeps coaching Spike on how to shoot while moving, and reminds him that only head or heart shots are fatal. They reach the abandoned house again and shoot their way through the infected while searching for a hiding spot. Eventually, they find an attic entrance and climb in, sealing it before the infected can see them. Time passes. They quietly watch from above, but the alpha doesn't leave. Jamie tells Spike that alphas are smarter, larger, and require a lot of arrows to take down. Unfortunately, they're nearly out of ammo, so they'll have to stay hidden. Hey everyone! If you're enjoying the videos and want to keep seeing more, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We're on an exciting journey to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you can help make it happen. Your support means the world to me and it's what keeps this channel going strong. So smash that subscribe button, join the family, and let's reach this milestone together. Spike feels guilty for not reacting faster during the fight, but Jamie reassures him. He did great, especially for his first time out. Later that night they spot someone walking with a flashlight. Jamie explains it's the quarantine patrol. On the other side a fire is burning. Spike asks about it but Jamie avoids the topic. When Spike falls asleep, he has a strange nightmare about his mother drowning in shaking structures. Jamie wakes him. This time it's real. The house is shaking and they need to get out fast. They barely escape before the roof collapses. Knowing the noise will attract more infected, they race back toward the island. High tide has partially flooded the causeway, but it's still shallow enough to cross. As they're moving, a swarm of birds suddenly flies overhead. The Alpha appears on the path behind them, sprinting at full speed. Spike slips a few times but Jamie helps him up and they run faster. Jamie whistles loudly to alert the town. The guards at the gate flip on the lights and fire arrows to hold off the Alpha. It barely slows the monster down. One of the guards lights an arrow on fire and shoots again, finally bringing the creature down. Jamie drags Spike to safety while Jenny makes them wait a few moments before opening the gate, making sure they aren't infected. That night, the village throws a party to celebrate Spike's safe return and first kill. Jamie tells the whole story, but Spike doesn't enjoy the attention. He's disturbed by how excited everyone is about all the killing. When the crowd lifts him up and lets him take his first drink, it becomes too much. He slips outside to throw up. Outside he sees Jamie sneaking off with another woman. Spike watches them in disbelief, heartbroken to realize his father is cheating. He heads home where Sam is sitting beside Isla, who's still sleeping. Spike shares some details about the trip and then asks Sam about the fire they saw in the distance. Sam says it was probably Dr. Kelson. He mentions that Jamie refuses to talk about the man, but doesn't go into details. The next morning, Isla wakes up with a horrible headache and asks for medicine. Spike doesn't know where any is. Jamie walks in and Spike can't even look at him. He walks out of the room. A few minutes later, he musters up the courage to ask Jamie why he hasn't asked Kelson to help Isla. Jamie says Kelson lost his mind years ago and shares a story from 15 years earlier. A group of foragers, including Jamie, once went to find Kelson and discovered thousands of bodies laid out in perfect lines around a massive bonfire. Kelson appeared, calmly dragging more bodies toward the flames and even waved at them. The group ran away terrified. But Spike insists Isla needs help and calls Jamie out for cheating. The confrontation ends with Jamie slapping Spike. He immediately regrets it but the damage is done. Spike storms upstairs to Isla's side. When Jamie tries to follow, Spike pulls out a knife and tells him to stay away. Jamie disarms him with ease but doesn't push further. Instead he gives the knife back and walks away. Later that day Spike sets fire to a barn. Then he runs to the guards and yells that the town needs help putting out the flames. He promises to keep watch while the adults are gone. As soon as he's alone he grabs Isla and sneaks through the gate, heading for the mainland. Once Isla realizes where they are she starts to panic, calling out for Jamie and her father. Spike calms her down, promising a doctor will help. They walk all day and eventually find a building to rest in. That night Isla wakes up, bored from keeping watch. She wakes Spike and tells stories from before the outbreak, mentioning that he reminds her of her father. Then in her confused state she starts calling him Dad. Spike gently tells her to sleep while he keeps watch. But Spike dozes off too. An infected sneaks inside and tries chewing on his shoelaces. When it realizes they aren't worms it spits them out. Just as it's about to bite Spike's face, something pulls it back into the shat. Spike jolts awake, momentarily convinced everything had been a dream. But the lifeless, mangled body of the infected still lies nearby, a grotesque reminder that it was all real. Isla sits quietly and says she doesn't remember what happened. But the truth is revealed through a flashback. Isla had managed to grab the infected by the head and slam it repeatedly against a stone statue, caving in its skull until it finally stopped moving. Elsewhere, a group of exhausted soldiers is frantically running through the dense woods. A swarm of infected are right behind them, howling and sprinting at unnatural speed. The soldiers fire desperately, dropping some of the creatures, but their ammo is running low and several are already wounded. Screams erupt as the infected close the gap and begin attacking. The bitten soldiers quickly turn, forcing their comrades to make a gut-wrenching decision. Gunshots echo as they are forced to put down their own teammates. In the chaos, only 3 men manage to break away and flee down into a tunnel. They slam the gate shut behind them, then open fire on the monsters pressing through the bars. The moment they relax, the danger returns. Out of the darkness, an alpha infected leaps at them. With terrifying strength, it grabs one soldier, tears his head clean off his body, then rips out the spine and uses it as a whip to knock another soldier into the wall. The remaining man backs toward the tunnel exit, firing wildly before turning to flee. Back in the wilderness, Spike and Isla continue traveling. Isla is increasingly disoriented, frequently succumbing to delusions. At one point, they stop by a moss-covered statue where she stares blankly and begins speaking to Spike as if he were her father. Blood trickles from her nose, and the sharp scent draws another infected. Before Isla can react, Spike takes it down with a swift arrow. Some of the infected's blood splashes onto Isla's forehead, and Spike panics, quickly wiping it off before she touches it. But the noise has drawn more. Growls echo through the trees and Spike grabs Isla's hand. They sprint through the woods. Eventually they spot an old gas station and rush toward it. The front door is jammed, but after a few desperate tries, they manage to force their way inside. Ows. The air inside is thick with gas fumes, making it hard to breathe. They stumble through the aisles trying to stay quiet, but the infected pour in after them. Spike hurls whatever he can find, cans, bottles, even a fire extinguisher, to slow them down. It's not enough. They're soon trapped in a dead end, surrounded. Then a metal hatch in the ceiling opens. A man leans down, it's a soldier named Eric. He signals for them to hide and opens fire, shooting wildly. A bullet strikes something flammable. The gas ignites in a sudden, roaring explosion. Flames engulf the infected, who scream and claw at the walls as they burn alive. Spike and Isla, hiding just out of reach of the blast, are unharmed. When the smoke clears, they exit the gas station. Isla vomits in the grass, her face pale and soaked with sweat. Eric steps over the debris and demands answers, asking where they're headed. When Spike gives him no clear direction, Eric grows agitated, but finally agrees to come along. He even offers to carry Isla on his back. Later that day, the group stops in a clearing to rest and eat apples from a nearby tree. Eric pulls out his phone, though there's no signal. Spike stares curiously, having never seen a phone before. Amused, Eric shows him how it works and swipes through pictures, eventually showing a photo of his girlfriend. Spike tilts his head and, confused by her appearance, says she looks strange. Eric laughs and explains about plastic surgery. Then the phone battery dies and with a scowl, Eric tosses the phone into the bushes. Suddenly, Isla perks up and begins wandering off. She follows a sound into an abandoned train car overrun with rats. Inside she finds something shocking, a pregnant infected woman lying on the floor, groaning in pain. Isla approaches cautiously. At first, the creature lashes out, but Isla remains calm and slowly gains her trust. As labor intensifies, Isla helps deliver the baby. Spike and Eric arrive just as the child is born. Isla orders Spike to cut the umbilical cord with a knife and helps clean the newborn using water from a bottle. The infected mother tries to rise, snarling, but Eric immediately fires a shot into her head, killing her on the spot. Eric turns his rifle toward the baby next, convinced it must be infected. But Isla and Spike look closely and insist the baby is completely human. Eric refuses to believe it and prepares to fire again, when suddenly a clawed hand rips through the ceiling and drags him out screaming. A moment later, an alpha drops down into the train, holding Eric's severed head. It snarls and steps forward. When it spots the dead infected woman, it howls in rage and lunges toward them. Spike fires arrow after arrow as they flee, slowing it down but unable to stop it. The trio escapes the train car. The alpha bursts out behind them, still in pursuit. But before it can reach them, Dr. Kelson reappears. He calmly lifts a sedative rifle and shoots the alpha in the shoulder. The beast stumbles and collapses. Kelson steps forward, drenched in iodine, explaining that the chemical protects him from the infection. He calls the alpha by name, Samson, and casually takes Eric's head. He tells them he has lived in these parts for years but usually keeps to himself. When Spike pleads for help with Isla, Kelson agrees and leads them to his bone temple, a strange monument built from thousands of skeletons. Human and infected bones are entwined into towering pillars and skulls form a massive shrine. Eric's skull is boiled clean in the fire. Once the flesh is gone, Kelson hands it to Spike and invites him to place it on the tower. Later, Kelson examines Isla and confirms what she feared, terminal cancer. Spike is devastated and begs for a cure, not understanding the limits of medicine. Isla holds her son and admits she'd already suspected the truth. She kisses his forehead and passes the newborn into his arms. With a heavy heart, she makes a subtle gesture to Kelson, signaling her consent. He guides her into the forest. Spike sits silently, clutching the baby, thinking about all the memories he shared with his mother. When Kelson returns, he holds Isla's clean skull. Spike takes it and climbs the shrine alone, placing it at the very top as dawn breaks over the horizon. Later, as they rest, the Alpha Samson charges across the field. Kelson quickly shoves Spike and the baby into a hidden pit beneath a false floor. Samson stomps overhead, trying to tear open the trapdoor but failing. Just as they think they're safe, Samson returns and smashes through the wood. He grabs Kelson and begins crushing him. Spike leaps up with a sedative dart in hand and jabs it into Samson's arm. The beast collapses immediately. With the danger past, Spike prepares to leave. He places the baby, now named Isla, into a basket. He carries her all the way back to the settlement and leaves her outside the gate with a note. The message reaches Jamie. As he reads it, his face crumples. Spike's letter says he's leaving and doesn't want to be found, confirming the baby is uninfected and that Kelson isn't a madman. Jamie sprints toward the shore, but the tide is already too high. He shouts his son's name, but the waves answer with silence. 28 days later, Spike is alone on the mainland, surviving in the wild. He kills an infected with one clean arrow. More are coming, so he runs. A rock wall blocks his path, but he takes down another infected before turning. Suddenly a voice calls out. Jimmy, now older, lean and armed, stands nearby wearing Jamie's cross. He grins, impressed by Spike's skill. Jimmy whistles and his small crew appears behind him. A new horde of infected charges. Spike joins the group. Together they leap from the rock and tear into the monsters. Arrows fly, blades slash and bones snap. When the last infected falls, Jimmy throws his arm around Spike and says they should be friends. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy deep dive recaps like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and let us know which movie you'd love to see next.